years ago, we moved out to our homestead with some pretty audacious goals. We wanted to grow as much food for ourselves to eat as we could, and we wanted to not only survive off of it, but to thrive. And we've learned a lot in these last 3 years, and our life's changed a lot because of it. So today, I just want to share how our life has changed in starting to grow our own food, and maybe yours could too. In 2020, us and a lot of people had a change in perspectives, a reprioritization of what was important to us in our life. And that was certainly our case in our story. And we realized that we wanted to start living a life that we had more control over. We wanted to start living a life that we could work towards some tangible results, and we wanted to start living a life that was a little bit healthier than what we were living. And so this idea of homesteading and this idea of growing our own food really excited us, and it really propelled us on this journey, kind of guiding us where we're at right now. And so when we decided that we were going to move out here, we knew that food was going to be our biggest priority. Growing our own food, trying to be as self-sufficient as we could. The more we learned about just the food systems in America, the more disheartened we got, and the more we realized that we needed to take our food into our own hands, in a sense. And there's something just really impactful when you go out to the garden and you pick a fresh tomato or pepper or cucumber, whatever it is, and knowing exactly what went into growing that, knowing exactly where it came from, and also probably most importantly, knowing there's nothing else that went into it that we don't want. Pesticides, chemicals, and that's probably been the biggest impact that growing our own food has had, is we know the quality is as good as you can get. One thing that I didn't really anticipate happening or foresee as a benefit was just the physical and mental health benefits that we've gotten from starting to grow our own food. And for a guy like me, I was never really one to consider mental health. I just never thought I had struggles with it or anything like that. And coming out here and having an activity like growing your own food, it really allows just for space in your head, allows for some clear thoughts, allows space to work out things that you're going through in your life, and trying to find those answers while doing something productive like growing your own food. And so that was one benefit, the mental aspect, that I definitely didn't anticipate happening. And then also too, the physical aspect. I mean, gardening and growing your own food is definitely not physically like an easy task. I think anyone can do it to some level, but hauling dirt, digging holes, moving wood chips around, picking, bending down, squatting, being outside in the sun, like it's all really, really good. And I think it feels really good because this is obviously what our ancestors did for forever, up until a few hundred years ago, or whenever industrial agriculture started. But the mental and the physical aspects, the benefits, they can't be undersold when it comes to how growing food has changed our life. These guys they're called Rosella tomatoes. We are going to, I think, dehydrate these for like some sun-dried tomatoes. They're really good just by themselves, but we love having sun-dried tomatoes on hand. The next way that growing food has changed our life, and this is probably the second biggest way, is just the skills that we've learned when it comes to growing food, preserving food, and even like cooking food and new recipes. I feel like when we came into this, I cannot stress enough how little I knew about growing vegetables. Like just nothing. We just didn't do it growing up, which is fine. But there's this like whole world that we discovered out here. And I have to pay a tribute to my grandma because one, she recently left us, but two, when I was younger, I remember going to Grandma and Grandpa's house and seeing this like basement full of canned foods and thinking it was so strange, and like, why would you grow your own food and harvest your own food when you have a grocery store, right? Isn't that where food comes from? But now thinking back and going through it ourselves, I just have incredible respect for the people that used to put away legitimately like 100% of their food and grow their own food. Almost 100%. We're nowhere near that, but that's something that we're kind of striving for. And it's just something cool to reflect on, how growing food has been obviously such a staple in human history. And like my grandparents and their grandparents, they've always done it, and it's kind of become a lost art. And so having that feeling of knowing that we have this new skill and this new knowledge, it's a really reassuring feeling. All right, look at this cucumber here. Ugh. Look at this guy. This thing's huge. It's like 8 inches and it's huge. What do you guys do with your giant cucumbers? If because we're not gonna make pickles out of these, so maybe make some like relish, I don't know. Let me know. If you guys have giant cucumbers, you let them go too long, what do you like to do with them? We will take any and all recipe ideas. Another way it's impacted our life, and this one is maybe more on the minor side, but it's still nothing to scoff at. But that's just the financial aspects of growing your own food. Now, if you're able to grow food at scale, you can save an incredible amount of money. It doesn't cost a lot to get going. You don't need to build a garden like we did. You can just find a nice area of land and put some produce in the ground and you're off. And so when you start looking at people that grow their own food at scale, and what I mean by scale is like growing their own food that lasts their family for a year or so, like you can save a lot of money, especially in today's day and age when everything is just stupid expensive. I'll just leave it at that. I won't go into it. But in today's day and age when everything is so expensive, being able to grow your own food can certainly save you some money. And like, for example, this year, this has probably been one of our best year for tomatoes. We'll take, for example, we grew, if I had to guess, well over 100 pounds of tomatoes that we're going to harvest and make into sauces and salsas and just other dishes. And that's a lot of money, if you think about what is 100 pounds of tomato sauce, what would that cost you? I don't know, a lot of money. So that's one area that we certainly are saving some money in. And so that's one area that we're certainly saving some money in, and growing our own food has had a financial impact for us in a positive way. Real quick, one way that we definitely saved money this year was we revamped our garden, and we had toyed with the idea of getting some nice metal garden beds. But we decided to hold off this year to try some borderless beds. And I'm really glad we did, because we saved probably $500-600 that we would have spent on these metal beds. But these borderless beds actually worked out really, really well. And so, next year we'll have to do a little bit reshaping of them to kind of get them back into the bed forms, because they kind of sprawled out a little bit. But I mean, that's like an hour worth of work, if that, and it's saved us hundreds of dollars, and we don't have to worry about buying those or worrying about these nice fancy garden beds becoming old and outdated and rusted and broken down. So that was one aspect that we were able to save a good amount of money with. A really cool aspect about what we're doing out here is the sustainability of growing your own food. And let me paint you a picture. In the springtime, we plant our food, right? And that food, from our labor and time, that seed gives us a tomato. I'm not gonna grab, they're only green over there. And with that tomato, we get food that we can eat. We get seeds that we can save and restart that cycle next year. And we get leftover scraps that we can feed our chickens. And the chickens ultimately give us back good, healthy, fertilized soil, eggs. And by creating these closed loop cycles on the homestead, it's really cool to see how sustainable you can become in just a short amount of time. And we're not perfectly sustainable. We're not able to completely eliminate all external inputs that we bring in. But year over year, we've gotten better and better about lowering the amount of whatever it is, inputs to bring into our garden and to produce our food. And so like next year, for example, we're gonna have most seeds, so we probably won't need to bring many seeds, if any, in. We have our soil here, we have our compost. We've talked about actually getting a wood chipper maybe, so that we can just make our own wood chips and we don't have to bring wood chips in. So if you have a wood chip recommendation, a wood chipper recommendation, let us know. But yeah, trying to close these cycles and these loops so that they're all staying here. It's really cool when you think about sustainability and you think about just what we're doing, hopefully, positively for the environment and for nature, and ultimately how that then is rewarding us with health and good fitness and everything else that we've kind of been talking about. I'm going to show you what I mean in action here. All right, we got this old kale plant. It's been pretty picked on, eaten up, so we're gonna go feed it to the chickens. So like I said, they'll take that food scrap that we have and they'll turn that into some nice healthy soil for us for the spring. And that's one way that we're closing the loop on our food production. Now look at these guys here. These are our blueberry plants. We are going to plant these up in the springtime. But one thing that's super cool about growing your own food is there's a difference, and if you're a gardener, you are probably aware, but if you're new to this, there's a difference between annual and perennial foods. And the annual foods are the vegetables, the things that you kind of think of when you think of growing your own food, maybe the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the peppers, the potatoes. But then there's perennial foods, things like berries, things like apples, pears. A lot of fruits are perennials. Asparagus is a perennial. And so these are things that if you take care of them up front, they will reward you for years to come. And so we are taking care with these blueberry plants. We're going to, this year they're sitting in the pots, as you can see, but next year we're going to plant them in really good quality and the right soil. And it might take another year or two for us to start getting berries, but once they get established, these blueberry plants will give us blueberries for 15 years. And that's really, really cool when you think about, okay, yeah, you do a little bit upfront work and it might, you have to have some patience, but then it's going to reward you for decades to come. That's really cool. And that's something that we love about growing our own food. Another way that growing our own food has impacted our life is I think it's brought us closer together. Having like a common goal that we're working towards every year and now able to bring this little guy into the family mission is really cool. And we're similar in a lot of ways, but we also have a lot of different interests and hobbies. And so having one that we can do together and plan every year it's really cool. It's fun.
Yeah, it's also a space to commune in, and like we have little date nights, garden parties with friends, or just hanging out with Gus here. He loves it, and so it's just another space for us to like spend time together. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know, a really welcoming, inviting space to spend time into.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things, I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but I think you would agree, one of the things we look forward to every year is become our annual coffee and planning date, where we will go to a coffee shop, or this year I think we did it at home, but planning out the garden just in the morning, taking the whole morning and getting excited and kind of re-energizing ourselves for the new growing season. And you're spilling tomatoes on me. That's one thing that I look forward to every year, and it's brought us closer for sure. So, and pretty soon he'll start to have some more responsibility in the garden, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you'll be the one chasing the dog away from the chickens. Like I said earlier, we have over 100 pounds of tomatoes that we're going to be preserving this year. And one thing that we've been doing differently this year is we've actually frozen all the tomatoes so far that we've harvested. In previous years, we would harvest them, we would try to can them as soon as possible, and obviously you can absolutely do that. However, that just was taking up so much time. Every time that we would bring in a big basket, which was at least once a week, if not twice a week, and then having to process them, get them pureed, and then canning them. It's just a process. And if you preserve your own food, if you can your own food, you know that. And so what we're doing this year is we froze all of our tomatoes. In probably a couple weeks, we'll pull them all out, we'll thaw them out, I don't know, we might de-skin them, because I've heard apparently it's really easy to de-skin tomatoes when they're frozen. And then we're gonna do our sauces for the year. So this, yeah, it's gonna take probably well over a few hours to do this all in one shot, but we're hoping that having just one big preserving day for our tomatoes will be much more enjoyable than having the little chunks. So we got the big tomatoes done, the Amish paste and San Marzano, and those are gonna be, like I said, for our sauces. But now we're gonna do our Rosella tomatoes, and these are the little kind of cherry-like tomatoes. And what the plan is for those is to put them in the dehydrator and make sun-dried tomatoes. So sun-dried tomatoes are super good on like pasta dishes or salads or rice dishes, just kind of add a little flavor kick. So, and it's really easy. You just have to throw it in a not a dehumidifier, in a dehydrator or an oven at a really low temperature. And I think it'll take probably like 10 hours or so for these to kind of get nice and crispy. But yeah, once we'll pop those in there, and then you just throw them in a mason jar and they're good to go for a long time, which is nice. So there you have it. These are some of the ways in which we choose to grow our own food, some of the reasons why we've chosen to take back a little bit more control in our life over our own food. It's changed our life. It could change yours too. And you don't have to be like some of the folks that grow 190% of their own food. We certainly aren't that. But little by little, each year we're trying to grow a little bit more food, store a little bit more every year, and take back a little bit more control over our own lives and start to live a little bit more intentional and start to try and be more intentional with our health. That's all I got for you. Think about growing your own food. We've loved every part of it. Challenges, its successes, its failures. Could change your life. Who knows? My name's Austin. This is the Cypress Sparrow Homestead. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.